Welcome to the Home Stagers and Designers on Fire podcast, where we help you attract more ideal clients, up-level your business, make more money, and still have a smokin' hot life. Hosted by best-selling author, coach, and speaker Marianne Cherico, this podcast focuses on business and mindset strategies that enable you to create a life and business by design. Now, let's get fired up.
Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm Marianne Cherico, the Home Stagers Coach, and I am so happy that you're here. This episode is part 3 of a 5-part series on being a confident and profitable home stager. Now, if you've listened to episodes number 182 and 183, that's great. If you haven't, I'd like to encourage you to listen to them. There's 5 pillars that I talk about in this series, and they're all very important and build on each other. So in episode number 182, we talked about confidence, which is the foundation for everything. Episode number 183 broke down clarity and the importance of that in your business and what it actually means, why it matters, and how unclear goals are keeping so many stagers spinning their wheels. Today, we're going to talk about pillar number 3, and this one hits differently. We're talking about consistency, and more specifically, the one resource that underlines all of it: time. Time is the most precious resource that we all have. It's the most important currency. It's more important than money. It's more important than anything. So this doesn't get said enough. You can always make more money, right? But you can't make more time. We talk a lot about financial goals in business, and we absolutely should be talking about that. But time is the real currency. It's the currency of our life and our business. And it's the one resource that's completely not renewable. It's your life and the story that it tells. And it's important to be intentional about how you spend your time so that the focus remains on what you really want your life and business to look like. Every single day, we're all given 24 hours. The question is not whether you'll spend them. You're going to spend them, right? You know that. The real question is whether you're investing your time, those hours, into what's really important, or just letting them slip away. And here's what I see happen with home stagers all the time. They're working a lot. They're doing staging jobs, client calls, sourcing furniture, posting on social media, and yet they still feel behind, still feel like they can't gain traction, still feel like they're running on a treadmill. Or maybe they're just starting their business. I work with a lot of clients who have been certified and are just starting their business, and they're spending their time on things that aren't really moving the needle. They need to get money in the door, but they're spending a lot of time on things that are long-term strategies when there are more effective short-term ways to do that faster. So does this sound familiar with you? The problem isn't that you aren't working hard. The problem is that you haven't treated your time like the precious, limited, strategic resource it is. And it's a precious resource for your life and your business. And here's the thing, your business doesn't exist in a vacuum. You're a whole human being with a family, a life, dreams that go way beyond staging. And if your business is consuming all of your time without intention, something is going to break. It might be a relationship or your health. It might be the passion that you have for the work yourself, the way you felt about the work when you started. Or it might be actually your business. I've seen stagers give up because they aren't gaining traction. And what they don't realize is that you have to put in the reps. It takes time to build a business, and you have to learn how to navigate the ups and downs. And it's so important that you spend your time wisely and that you show up and are consistent when building your business. Consistency is what gains traction and builds momentum. So when I talk about the currency of time, I'm talking about both dimensions, time for your business and time for your life. They absolutely have to work together. Now, I'm going to be focusing on time for your business And I will talk a little bit about how it's important to structure that around time for your life. But let's start by talking about what consistency really is. Consistency is not about doing everything all the time at full speed. Sometimes it means slowing down to speed up. This is a business strategy, actually, slowing down to speed up, where you actually take an intentional pause to plan, to work on your business instead of in it. Now, I'd just like to say here that all of my coaching clients know that I know that you need to take time to work on your business every week, every day, right? You need to work on your business instead of in it. So this is really important. When you're slowing down to speed up, a lot of times you're doing a business strategy where you're intentionally working on things like defining clear goals and strategies. You're creating systems and processes that fine tune your business and ensure that your team perhaps is in alignment with your vision. All of those things are, cause you to take pause and slowing down to speed up so that you can make sure that your business is running like a fine oiled machine. Consistency is also about showing up in the right ways repeatedly over time in alignment with the goals you've set. Think about it this way: if confidence is your inner foundation for growth, if clarity is your North Star, consistency is the cadence of steps you take to get there. You could have confidence and all the clarity in the world, but if you're not consistently taking action on the right things, you're not going to get where you want to go. And here's what separates stagers who struggle from stagers who scale: it's not talent, it's the discipline to do the unsexy, unglamorous, repetitive work of showing up, even when you don't feel like it, even when the inquiries are slow and you feel like they're not happening fast enough, even when you're not seeing the results yet. Consistency is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. But here's the nuance, and this is important: consistency without intention is just busy work with a schedule. That's why pillar number two, clarity, had to be the pillar that was before this. You need to be clear on what you're being consistent about. Otherwise, you're busy but not productive. So, how do we actually use this currency, the currency of time, wisely? Let me give you a couple suggestions. And I have other ones that I work with my coaching clients on, but here's some that would be really helpful. And this is something that really great business coaches recommend. And it's not the fun, sexy stuff. The first thing is a time audit. Before you can really manage your time, you have to see where you're spending your time. So it's highly recommended, and this is not fun, for 1 week for you to track everything you do in your business in 30-minute blocks. I want you to track where you're spending your time, everything that you're doing in your business. This is not to judge yourself, but to get honest, because most stagers think they're spending a lot of time marketing or reaching out to real estate agents. And when it comes down to it, they're not spending a lot of time on the needle moving activities. They're not spending a lot of time fine tuning their systems and doing the CEO level types of work. And most stagers are shocked to discover how much time goes to things that actually don't generate income or revenue that move them forward. So track what you're spending time on in 30-minute increments for a week and actually block out where you're spending your time. Are you spending it on marketing? Are you spending it on doing low level types jobs that you could be paying somebody else to do? This is really eye opening. And you want to ask yourself, is this activity that I'm doing an income producing activity, or am I just keeping busy? Right? Are you spending, a plethora of hours working on a website that should be done by now? You need to get it out. Maybe you're being too much of a perfectionist. It's very eye opening to do this exercise. Now, let's talk about something different. I want to talk about the 3 zone framework for gauging your time. So, let's say that zone number one is your revenue zone. And this involves activities that directly bring in money or leads. like things like client consultations, follow-ups, proposals, marketing that converts, meeting with real estate agents, builders, or investors, networking. This is where a significant portion of your working time should go, right? Revenue building activities. Now, let's talk about zone number two, which I'll call the growth zone. These are activities that build your business long term, like creating content, a blog perhaps, or lead magnets, team building, professional development, refining your systems and processes. These are things that are very important, but not urgent, especially if you're trying to get money in the door. And then we'll talk about zone number three, which is the drain zone. These are things that feel productive, but don't move the needle. For instance, building a huge following on Instagram, but they're not your ideal clients. It feels productive, but if they're not your ideal clients that are following you and that you're interacting with and that are downloading your lead magnet to get them on your email list, then they're draining your time, but they're not productive. Spending time on endless inbox management on your email, redoing things because of unclear processes, saying yes to projects that don't serve your goals. This is a zone that you want to minimize. The problem is that a lot of stagers are spending 80% of their time in zones 2 and 3, and they need to be spending more time on the activities that bring in money, right? Because you can always hire more team or you can always up your prices, right? And then take less jobs, but get paid really well for those jobs. But if you're spending a lot of time in zones 2 and 3 instead of zone 1 and 2, you want to really gauge that. Now, let's talk about metrics that matter. And we're going to talk here about key performance indicators or KPIs for your business. Let's dive into the numbers because consistency without measurement doesn't tell the real story. You need to know what's working in your business and what isn't working. And to know what's working, you need to be tracking the right things, the KPIs. And they're the compass that keeps your consistency pointed in the right direction. Now, I want to be clear. Not all metrics are created equal. Some metrics feel good, but they don't tell you much. We call these the vanity metrics. We just kind of talked about them, building, a lot of Instagram followers that aren't resulting into you gaining more leads. They might feel good, but if they aren't converting into clients, it doesn't mean anything, right? They don't pay your rent. The metrics that matter are the ones that are tied directly to your goals. Now, here are some core KPIs that I recommend for every home staging business. And there's obviously more, but for this episode, we're going to go into some core ones. Your financial KPIs. You want to be tracking at minimum, your monthly revenue. Now, I know that when I had Grant Finley Sherris on the podcast, he talked about tracking daily revenue, the daily financial numbers in his business. And he's very, very, very hands-on in his business and, it has a big team and he is the CEO of his business. But at minimum, I would say monthly, knowing what your baseline is, know your numbers every single month, not at the end of the year when you're doing your taxes. Monthly, knowing your real numbers allows you to course correct in real time. So at a minimum, you should be knowing what your financials are monthly. You also want to know what your average project value is, your APV. What's the average dollar amount of each staging project that you complete? So this is very helpful because let's say you want to hit $10,000 a month and your APV is $1,000 per job. You would need 10 jobs in order to hit that goal. If you raise your APV, let's say to $2,500, let's say you were charging or netting $2,500, you would only need 4 jobs. This helps you stay on track with your goals. And it changes everything about how you run your business. Now, let's talk about revenue per client type. This is also a helpful KPI. You want to know, am I making more money doing occupieds? Are they more profitable than vacants? Because if you really drill down your numbers, you might find that for the time it takes to do, let's say, an occupied consult, and if you broke down the time that it took you to do a vacant and you knew your numbers about what you were making on that job, like let's just say just for the labor, you're actually possibly making more money doing a consult. Now, you could be making money on the furniture as well. So you got to really look at your numbers and understand what your KPI is per type of client. And then it helps you also to decide, am I charging enough? Break down your revenue by service to see where your real profit is lying and where the business is coming from. That's another number that you want to know. Where are you getting the business from? Let's talk about lead and conversion KPIs. You want to know what the number of inquiries are per month. Where are you getting your leads? How many people are reaching out to you? Where are they coming from? You want to track that. This is your pipeline health check. Now, if inquiries drop, you want to know why. Something in your marketing may be different, or your visibility is shifted. Maybe you're not showing up on Instagram, and that was where you were getting a lot of leads. You want to know those kinds of numbers to track. Also, you want to track your consultation to booking rate, right? So, of the staging consultations that you do, how many have converted to paid projects? If you're booking 2 out of 10, that's a 20% conversion rate, and there's perhaps room to grow. There's a reason why you're not booking more. If it's 8 out of 10 that you're booking, that's pretty strong, right? And if it's 10 out of 10, let's face it, you probably need to raise your prices because you may be getting those jobs out of the fact that you're the lowest price, and you might want to look at that. But these numbers tell the story, and it gets you to ask more questions and to fine tune your business. Also, lead source tracking. Where are your clients coming from? Are they coming from referrals? Are they coming from Instagram, your website, reaching out to real estate agents? You want to know where your top 3 sources are and pour your energy there, because you can't be everywhere with your marketing and your time bandwidth. You want to be strategic and pour gasoline on the things that are working. Let's talk about time and productivity KPIs. Billable hours versus non-billable hours. This is really important to know, and you'll learn more when you do that time, gauging your time, as we discussed earlier, for a week. So you want to know how many hours you're actually being paid, billable hours, versus the hours you're working for free, right? So we think if we're charging, I'm throwing out a number, guys. I'm not telling you to charge this, but let's say you're charging 150 an hour for billable hours. You want to know, it seems like a lot of money, but actually, there's a lot of hours that are put into that you're not being paid for. Those are the non-billable hours. These are hours that you might want to think about outsourcing at some point. Admin, follow-up, fixing mistakes, all right? Doing D stages, things that are, a lower level as far as what you should be charging income wise. Like if you're billing out at 150 an hour and you're doing jobs that you could pay somebody $20 an hour for, you want to think about that. So those KPIs are really important to know. Also, here's another thing. You want to be clear about when to invoice. Think about this. How quickly do you send your invoices out after a project? Because the faster you invoice, the faster you get paid. And that's what keeps money in the door and cash flowing. This is a simple operational metric with a direct impact on your cash flow. Let's talk about growth KPIs and your referral rate. What percentage of your new clients came from referrals? A high referral rate signals that your clients love working with you. A low rate might mean it's time to create a referral program or to improve the client experience. All right. So you want to make sure that you're gauging client experience. Another way you could do that is to send out surveys. Let's talk about email list growth. If you're building your email list and you want to build an audience, and you should be, track how your email list is growing month over month. Is it growing from your lead magnet? Also, you want to check open rate of your emails. What subject lines seem to attract clients to want to open it up? And did your call to action lead to something like a coffee date with a real estate agent? So these are some KPIs that you want to track. Here's the thing. All of you listeners are at a different place in your business. Some of you are just beginning, and the metrics you want to follow might be leads from a lead magnet or how many real estate agents you have to call to get one coffee date. So you're going to be tracking different metrics. As you grow your business, you may be growing a team and you may have other metrics, like how long it takes to do a staging job, or how can you refine your systems or your employee handbook, things like that. But what I want you to walk away with is that you all know, your inner business expert knows what you should be doing to track your KPIs. It depends on where you are in your business. I want you to go away from this episode really thinking about the fact that time is your most valuable currency in your life and in your business. And the way you use it consistently and intentionally is what will determine whether your staging business becomes the vehicle to give you the type of life that you want. Here's something I feel so strongly about. Your personal time is not what's left over after the business is done. You have to schedule it in first because the currency of your life is that important. I'm serious. When you sit down to plan your week, block your non negotiables first, your family commitments, your self care, your rest, then build your business around that. It feels so counterintuitive, right? Because we let our business dictate our life. But it is transformative when you start to do this because when your life is protected, you show up to your business with more energy, more focus, and more creativity. Your business should fuel your life, not consume it. Consistency isn't glamorous. It's not always the exciting, sexy thing, right? But it's the compound interest of success. Every call you make, every email you send, every time you show up when you don't feel like it, it's building something. Trust the process. All right. Now, I want to bring up again that I'm going to be doing a program and it's a beta launch. I'm so excited about it. I've been working really hard on this based on what I see that home stagers need. This program is going to be called the Confident and Profitable Home Stager. And I have a wait list and you can join the wait list. There's no obligation, but I will say you will be the first to know when I launch this program, and it is going to be only open to 10 people. And those 10 people are going to get so much value, so much help. It will never be this price again. You'll also get, when you join the wait list, bonuses, first notice of the program. Join the wait list. The link is in the show notes for the podcast, or you can go to my website, www.coachingbymarianne.com, and that's Marianne. And later this week, we're on to pillar number 4 of the 5 pillars of a confident and profitable home stager. And this is a good one. So make sure you're subscribed to the podcast. You can subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. If this episode resonated with you, I would love for you to share it with a fellow stager who needs to hear this. And maybe they'll be interested in the confident and profitable home stager as well. Thank you so much for being here. I value each and every one of you listeners. I appreciate you. I'm always working harder and harder to bring you value-driven content. Have a great week.
This episode of the Home Stagers and Designers on Fire podcast has ended. Be sure to subscribe for more strategies on how to attract your ideal clients, uplevel your business, make more money, and still have a smokin' hot life. And don't forget to review this show so that we can continue to bring you top-notch content. See you on the next episode.